Imagine standing on the edge of the Grand Canal at dawn. The mist hovers above the water, soft and gray, curling around the facades of palaces that have seen centuries pass. The water reflects a sky streaked with pale pink and gold, and gondolas, heavy and silent, begin to glide through the canals. You can hear the rhythmic splash of oars and the distant cries of merchants opening their shops, a melody that has carried across generations. But in 1700, Venice was no longer the vibrant, unchallenged maritime titan it once was. Its gilded era was fading, its power waning, yet life within the city remained rich, vibrant, and stubbornly alive. The Republic of Venice, the Serenissima, had been built on trade and ambition, stretching across the Adriatic and beyond. By the turn of the 18th century, however, the world outside its lagoon had changed. The great trading routes that once guaranteed Venice's wealth had shifted. The Portuguese, the Dutch, and the English had discovered new paths to the east. Spices, silks, and precious stones now traveled along oceans Venice could only dream of controlling. Standing here, on the Rialto Bridge, you can see not only the bustling markets below, but also the subtle cracks forming in the foundations of a city that had once seemed eternal. The city itself, rising from a maze of canals, seems timeless. Look at the stone bridges arching elegantly over narrow waterways, their surfaces polished by centuries of foot traffic. The facades of the palazzi, adorned with intricate carvings and Byzantine mosaics, show the wealth of generations. Yet in 1700, many are showing signs of wear. Stone that was once bright and proud has dulled to gray. Wooden shutters hang unevenly on windows, and moss clings stubbornly to the edges of walls facing the canals. The water that gives life to Venice also hums with decay, eroding foundations and reminding all who live here that beauty is fragile, and power even more so. Daily life in Venice at this moment is a delicate balance between resilience and decline. Merchants walk briskly along the narrow streets, carrying crates of sugar, wine, and salt. The marketplaces are crowded, but the energy is different from the grandeur of the 16th century. There is urgency here, a sense that the city must adapt or face irrelevance. In small cafes along the canals, men sip coffee and converse in low tones about shipping routes and debts. Women haul water from public wells, gossiping about neighbors and family affairs. Children run barefoot through the piazzas, chasing one another under the watchful eyes of elders, who tell stories of Venice's past triumphs. The battles won, the alliances forged, the fleets that once ruled the seas. Politically, Venice in 1700 is both proud and cautious. The Doge, the elected leader of the Republic, resides in the Palazzo Ducale, a structure as imposing as the city's reputation. Inside, council chambers are filled with the low murmur of debate, where decisions about trade, diplomacy, and defense are weighed carefully. The Venetian Senate, composed of the city's noble families, meets in a strict order that has persisted for centuries. But power, though still respected, is no longer absolute. Wars have drained the treasury, and rival powers have grown more audacious. Venice's famed navy, once a symbol of unmatched dominance, has shrunk in size and influence. Ships that glide through the lagoon are fewer and smaller, their wooden hulls bearing the marks of age and patchwork repair. Despite these challenges, the city's economy remains a patchwork of old and new. Guilds control craft and trade, ensuring that Venice's reputation for glass, lace, and textiles endures. The artisans of Murano continue to shape delicate glass with skill unmatched anywhere in the world, their furnaces burning day and night. Blacksmiths hammer metal for tools, anchors, and decorative ironwork. But the wealth these industries bring is no longer evenly distributed. Nobles maintain grand estates and ceremonial influence, yet many families scrape by, relying on small-scale commerce, tourism, and fishing to survive. The contrast between wealth and modest living is visible in the streets. Palaces next to modest homes, gilded windows beside patched shutters. Social life in Venice adapts to these conditions. The carnival, though still celebrated, carries a subtle nostalgia. Masks hide not only faces but also the anxiety of a city aware that its golden age is receding. Music flows from the opulent theaters along the canals, yet the performers often struggle to secure patronage in a city that has less disposable wealth than before. In the churches, congregations gather to hear sermons that mix faith with reminders of civic duty. Religion, intertwined with governance, continues to shape the moral and social framework of Venetian life. Citizens are bound together not only by water and walls but by centuries of shared identity and ritual. The external threats to Venice are also pressing. The Ottoman Empire still casts a shadow over the eastern Mediterranean, controlling territories Venice once relied upon for trade. Pirates and corsairs lurk along the Adriatic, preying on the smaller merchant vessels that venture beyond the lagoon. And yet, Venice's diplomacy is subtle and complex. Ambassadors walk between palaces in Istanbul, Vienna, and Paris, negotiating treaties, alliances, and trade agreements. Venice survives not only through military might but through the art of negotiation, a skill as finely honed as the goldsmith's tools that shine in the windows of the city. Visually, the city is a theater of contrasts. The Grand Canal serves as a stage where gondolas, barges, and small trading ships create a continuous movement, their colors reflected in the rippling water. Morning light glints off terracotta roofs, illuminates frescoed walls, and sets the domes of churches aglow. By night, lanterns float on water, and shadows deepen in alleys and under bridges, creating a mood both romantic and melancholic. From the high bell tower of San Marco, one can see the full expanse of the lagoon, dotted with islands where fishermen and farmers continue lives that have changed little over decades. The juxtaposition of grandeur and decay is everywhere, a visual reminder of Venice's fragile endurance. Economically, Venice in 1700 faces a slow contraction. Trade, though still present, no longer brings the enormous profits of earlier centuries. Merchants must navigate higher taxes, competition from northern European ports, and shifting consumer demand. Venetian banks and financiers remain influential, yet they operate under more caution, aware that a misstep could unravel centuries of accumulated capital. The economic strategies of the city involve careful management of debt, selective investment in trade ventures, and the cultivation of niche markets, luxury goods, specialty textiles, and fine art that appeal to discerning elites across Europe. Human life in Venice is intertwined with this economic reality. Families plan their futures meticulously. Sons and daughters are trained in trades or business. Marriages are negotiated to strengthen economic ties, and apprenticeships begin in childhood. Life is public and observed. Every canal crossing, every marketplace transaction, every festival is a performance of civility, of skill, and of survival. There is an awareness that the city's reputation as an eternal maritime power is being tested, and each individual contributes to its resilience in their own way. Philosophically, standing here in Venice is a lesson in impermanence. The city is a delicate dance between human ingenuity and natural forces. Water sustains and threatens in equal measure. Palaces crumble, yet they endure through restoration. Power ebbs, yet life persists. Venice teaches that decline is not a sudden event, but a gradual layering of choices, circumstances, and global shifts. In the piazzas, as merchants haggle and children play, one can sense both pride and melancholy. The city is alive, aware of its past, and cautiously hopeful for its future. In the arts, Venice continues to leave a mark that transcends its political and economic standing. Painters capture light and shadow with a mastery that is unparalleled. The works of Giovanni Battista Tiepolo and others begin to reflect a society conscious of its elegance and fragility. Theatrical performances draw audiences who seek escape, reflection, or social commentary. Even in decline, Venice's culture radiates influence, a reminder that power is measured not only in ships and gold, but in the capacity to inspire, to create, and to endure. Walking along the narrow Cali, the hum of life is palpable. Fishermen mend nets beside the canals, their hands rough but skilled. Bakers deliver bread before dawn, filling the streets with the scent of warmth and sustenance. Street performers balance precariously on bridges, their antics witnessed by passers-by who pause, if only for a moment, to smile. This is a city that thrives in motion, in its routines, and in the quiet perseverance of ordinary lives. Venice in 1700 is a city aware of its past and cautious of its present. The air carries the sense of brine, wood, and smoke from cooking fires. Conversations in cafes and taverns reflect concern over trade disputes and taxes, yet also recount stories of family achievements, naval victories, and artistic triumphs. Even as the Republic's dominance fades on the international stage, a sense of identity remains unbroken. Citizens continue to take pride in their city, in the intricate dance between canals and palaces, bridges and piazzas, water and stone. As the sun dips lower, casting golden light across the lagoon, one can observe the subtle resilience of Venice. Gondolas glide more slowly now, merchants tally ledgers with careful attention, and families return home along canals lined with the quiet hum of domestic life. The city is changing, its role in the world diminished, yet within its walls, life endures. It is a place where history and daily existence intertwine seamlessly, where every shadow and shimmer in the water tells a story of adaptation, endurance, and the inescapable passage of time. Here, in Venice at the dawn of the 18th century, one can witness the elegance of decline. The city remains proud, beautiful, and stubbornly alive. It is no longer the unchallenged queen of the seas, yet it continues to move, breathe, and tell its story through stone, water, and human endeavor. The Serenissima survives not in conquest or wealth alone, but in the intricate tapestry of lives lived within its labyrinth of canals. And as night falls and lanterns glimmer on the water, one realizes that Venice, even in the shadow of decline, is timeless. Night has settled over Venice. The canals are mirror dark, reflecting the flicker of lanterns from gondolas that move like slow shadows across the water. The air is heavy with brine, smoke from hearths, and the faint perfume of orange blossoms from the gardens hidden behind wrought iron gates. Standing here, it is possible to sense the weight of centuries pressing down. Venice at the dawn of the 18th century is no longer a radiant powerhouse, yet the city pulses with a quiet intensity. Its decline is not a single moment of collapse but a slow contraction, a transformation seen in everyday life, politics, and the very fabric of the city itself. In the streets, the sounds of daily labor have faded, replaced by nocturnal activity. Fishermen return from the lagoon, their nets glistening under the moonlight. Small taverns hum with voices. Men sip wine and discuss trade routes, debts, and rumors of the Ottoman Empire. Conversations drift to Venice's distant colonies, Crete, Cyprus, and the Dalmatian coast, and to the precariousness of their security. Merchants worry over taxes levied by distant authorities, the rising cost of ship maintenance, and the increasing difficulty of securing reliable crews. The once mighty naval dominance of Venice is now an echo, remembered in the stories of retired sailors and the faded flags on small, patched galleys docked along the Riva degli Schiavoni. Politically, the city is cautious, aware of its diminishing influence. The Doge presides over a council that is equal parts ceremonial and functional. The Venetian Senate debates with measured precision, seeking compromise amid competing noble interests. Decisions about trade, defense, and diplomacy are colored by an awareness of vulnerability. Venice's intelligence network extends across Europe and the Mediterranean, gathering information about the movements of rival powers. Yet the Republic's reach cannot match its former might. Alliances with France, Austria, and the Ottoman Empire are fragile and transactional, forged as much from necessity as strategy. Each treaty is a reminder that Venice survives not by the sword, but by subtlety, negotiation, and the careful projection of influence. The human dimension of decline is palpable. Look into a small courtyard at the heart of Venice, where a family tends a vegetable garden and a few chickens. Here, life is intimate, governed by routine and necessity rather than grandeur. Women sweep the stone floors, children chase each other under arches, and an elderly man sits in the corner, whittling wood, recounting tales of naval triumphs long past. The contrast between private life and public perception is striking. Outside, palaces glimmer, and merchants negotiate trade, But behind walls, ordinary Venetians navigate the realities of survival. These microcosms of daily existence reveal a city still vibrant, yet aware of fragility and change. The economy of Venice has shifted as well. While luxury goods, Murano glass, lace, and handcrafted furniture continue to draw attention across Europe, they are no longer enough to secure the city's dominance. Trade is competitive, routes are contested, and profits are narrower. Venetian bankers and financiers operate with caution, lending to merchants but wary of overextension. Taxes on imported goods are high, and piracy remains a constant threat. Yet innovation persists. Small industries adapt, producing items that appeal to emerging markets in Northern Europe. Artisans experiment with new techniques, blending tradition with practicality, seeking to maintain relevance in a changing economic landscape. Culturally, Venice continues to shine. Theaters host operas, their stages lit with oil lamps that throw shadows across richly painted backdrops. Music drifts through streets and piazzas, creating a soundtrack to the city's life that mixes melancholy with celebration. Painters, sculptors, and architects continue to shape Venice's identity, leaving a legacy that will outlast political decline. The palaces themselves serve as museums of a fading age, their frescoes and sculptures testament to a city that once dictated taste across Europe. Art becomes a statement not only of wealth but of resilience, a way to assert cultural relevance even as power recedes. Religion remains a cornerstone of Venetian life, guiding both morality and daily ritual. Churches are centers of community, their bells marking hours and calling citizens to prayer. Processions wind through the canals, the faithful moving in solemn rhythm, carrying symbols of devotion. Religious festivals, once displays of political as well as spiritual authority, now serve as reminders of continuity. Even as Venice's naval and commercial dominance fades, the city's devotion to ritual and faith reinforces its sense of identity and unity. The moral authority of religious institutions balances the practical anxieties of governance, commerce, and social change. From a visual perspective, Venice in 1700 presents a city of contrasts. Sunlight glimmers off canal waters in the morning, illuminating palaces and churches, yet shadows in narrow alleys speak of decay and neglect. Bridges connect neighborhoods, yet the stone beneath often shows cracks from age and overuse. The skyline is dotted with domes and bell towers, their silhouettes proud against the horizon, while the lagoon reflects every movement of gondola and boat with a liquid precision that is uniquely Venetian. Observing the city from a high vantage point, one sees the ebb and flow of life, a choreography of survival and beauty played out against the backdrop of an empire in slow retreat. The philosophical undertones of Venice's decline are evident in everyday observation. The city is built on water, an inherently unstable foundation. Its survival requires constant maintenance, vigilance, and adaptation. Each generation confronts the duality of endurance and fragility. The canals that carry commerce also corrode the city's infrastructure. The grand palaces of the Doge and the nobility stand as monuments to ambition, yet they require laborious upkeep. Venice teaches that decline is not always catastrophic. It can be subtle, unfolding in layers that require both resilience and imagination to navigate. Humanity in Venice continues to interact with this impermanence. Residents understand that survival is a balance between tradition and adaptation. Marketplaces hum with activity. Bakers knead dough, tailors measure fabrics, merchants haggle over prices. Young apprentices learn trades alongside masters, absorbing not only skill but also the ethos of civic pride. Families strategize marriages, investments, and alliances to maintain social and economic standing. Even as the Republic's geopolitical influence diminishes, the microcosm of Venetian life, the domestic, the artisanal, the commercial remains rich and purposeful. Internationally, Venice struggles to maintain relevance. The Ottoman Empire, now more stable, exerts influence over former Venetian territories, while Northern European powers expand maritime networks. Portuguese, Dutch, and English fleets dominate trade routes that Venice once controlled. Venetian diplomats operate with finesse, negotiating favorable terms where brute power no longer suffices. Each treaty, however, is a reminder of the city's shrinking sphere of influence. Venice's approach is subtle: survival through reputation, culture, and strategic alliances rather than direct confrontation. The city becomes a lesson in political adaptation, demonstrating the value of perception, negotiation, and the careful balancing of relationships across a complex global stage. Life in the lagoon itself is emblematic of this balance. Fishermen rise before dawn, gliding silently through misty waters to cast nets. Farmers tend small plots on the islands surrounding Venice, producing crops that sustain both population and market trade.
Daily routines are intertwined with the rhythms of nature, showing a dependence on water, weather, and ecological knowledge. Venice is not merely a city of stone and politics. It is an ecosystem, a network of human and environmental interaction. Decline in power does not erase these relationships. It transforms them, demanding greater skill and awareness to thrive. Even in decline, Venice's commitment to artistry and public spectacle continues. The carnival remains, though tinged with a sense of nostalgia and awareness of lost grandeur. Masks and costumes evoke a city that once shaped culture across Europe. Streets come alive with music, dancing, and theatrical performances. The visual richness of these events contrasts with the quieter economic realities, creating a tension between aspiration and circumstance. Venetian identity, rooted in centuries of achievement, continues to express itself through ritual, art, and communal celebration. Standing on the Ponte della Paglia, looking toward the Bridge of Sighs, one can feel the weight of history. Venice is a city built on ambition and water, enduring through cycles of conquest, commerce, and creativity. In 1700, it faces the inevitability of change. Its ships no longer dominate distant seas, and its coffers are less full than before. Yet the city persists, animated by citizens whose lives are intimately connected to the canals,